Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the first edition of Guitar Talk with Mike Higgins. I will be your host, and we're going to talk about everything that's guitar related. We're going to talk about old guitars, new guitars, different styles, and the players that have come to make certain models popular, and in their role in modern culture in general as we know it. And as a guitarist and collector, who's somebody who has admired the instruments for many, many years, I hope to bring to you some information about guitars, maybe a little something that you weren't aware of. And today's guest is a well-known legend of the blues, and he's played with many, many blues icons. He's worked all over the place. We have Neil Vitullo, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard, Neil.
How you doing?
Good. It's great to have you on board today. I know that you have played many types of guitars, not just the Telecaster, which is what we're going to focus on today. But you've played Strats, hollow bodies, Les Pauls, pretty much the whole thing. And you're like me. You just never found a good one you couldn't take home with you.
I love them. I love guitars, man. What can I say? I'm a Ben Fender guy my whole life. I mean, but it started when I was a kid. I mean, I would work at Newport Creamery. I would get my tax refund. I'd take the tax refund check. I would go to Modens Music in Warren, and I would buy then the Ibanez had just come out.
Oh,
and you
sure.
could buy enough, you know, you'd have enough dough to get one of those to take home and try, or, you know, and add a little.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
something like that until later on when I could afford, you know, the instruments that I've always drooled over.
Right, right. Now, and you were drawn to blues right away.
Absolutely. I wanted to know where it came from. Listen, you know, you listen to the English guys at first, and you read the record credits. You know, McKinley Morganfield, Muddy Waters. Who's Willie Dixon?
Yeah, he wrote for all those guys.
Yes, they all, you know, so I started going into it and buying records.
When did you get bit by the Tully bug? The Telecaster, ladies and gentlemen, before we go too much further with it, is one of the most recorded guitars, if not the most recorded guitar in the history of modern music. And people like Jeff Beck, Roy Buchanan, jazz players like Joe Pass, all the great country guys, Don Rich, Clarence White invented the B-bender for the Telecaster. And the guy that played the great slide stuff, of course, as Neil mentioned, was Muddy Waters. And there's just been so many. Albert Collins, the Iceman, he had a humbucker in his. And it first came to popularity. It was introduced in 1950, but it had been worked on quite a bit leading up to that. Then they came out with the Broadcaster, and as you know, Gretsch sued Fender, so they couldn't use the Broadcaster name anymore. So there was a year or two when they produced something called a no-caster. It's just a caster, but it had no name because they didn't want to get sued. And then 2 years later, they came out with the Telecaster. Those original examples of the Broadcaster and the no-caster fetch thousands and thousands of dollars. And even the good custom shop recreations that you'll see demonstrated today aren't cheap either, but they're as close as mortal men are ever likely to get.
Yeah, we can't afford those.
To those original
tens of thousands.
Examples. So tell me, was there a particular player that just grabbed you and said, oh my God, what is that sound? I've got to play a Telecaster.
Roy Buchanan.
Roy Buchanan. Can we get an amen for Roy Buchanan out there in Viewerland? Because he's the guy.
He's the man.
He's
the man. I was fortunate enough to hang with Roy Buchanan, do shows with him.
Wow.
Did his encore one night, and then he came up and I got to play with Roy.
What a thrill that must have been. I can't even comprehend that.
It was an out-of-body experience for me because he was my idol. I had not played a Telecaster then. I was playing Stratocasters, but he was a gracious guy. Smoking cigars, drinking beer with Roy Buchanan, and
Doesn't
he
get
was
any
nothing
better.
but encouraging.
Yes.
And just the sounds he would coax out of Nancy. That's why I have this one.
Yeah, show that to the viewers, Neil, if you would. And so that you guys know, Nancy is what Roy affectionately called his most beloved Tully. He had many come through his career, but Nancy is the one.
This is a 53 style.
1953.
The only differences really from a Nocaster is that they used Phillips head screws.
Ah,
Instead, this is a very beat up one, but as close as you would see to Nancy.
that's as close as you're ever going to get. on this.
And
Yeah.
I've played many original 53s, and this plays exactly like it, probably a little bit better because.
And I
Now,
think the viewers probably, most folks are under the impression that every vintage guitar is somehow going to be a magic instrument.
And
That's
it's not.
not always the case, is it?
No, it's definitely not. Nancy, first off, got its magic tone from the bridge pickup, which was actually broken. If you put an ohm meter on it, it didn't read anything.
Wow.
If you go to, there's a man called Don Mayer who's really researched all that and went on a quest to build a pickup that had that sound, and he's achieved it. And he went to the man that bought Nancy in Japan and got to play it and got to dissect it. He allowed him to put the meter on it
Wow.
and check it out. And it was actually broken, and it was so microphonic. And that's when you hear that click when he goes
When he
to
kicks
that,
it in.
Kicks it in. And it inspired him to make those great sounds.
I think a great example of Nancy is on that Roy Buchanan album, Livestock. Because
Awesome.
when he hits the bridge pickup on that album, it's like something's just leaping out of his amplifier at you. And
You make your head snap around.
he used no effects. Everything he did, right, was in his fingers and the use of that volume and tone control.
Exactly.
It's all about the player, folks. You want to have a good guitar, but it's all about the guys like this that can coax out the sounds.
It's not the car, it's the driver.
Always.
It's 9 times out of 10. That's how it is.
Always. So once you got to experience Roy in the flesh like that, obviously, by the looks of things here, the Tully Bug took a pretty good hold on your life.
Yes, well, my first Telly was a real 1958 Telecaster
Wow.
that I got from now defunct Providence Music. And I fought with that thing. Just could not bond with it.
Didn't play the way you would hope.
Could not bond with it, and that's true. Like you were saying, not all were great.
They weren't. And
you
if they
could
weren't
get
maintained.
a dog. One would be a dog made days apart by the same people. One would be a dog, and one would be just amazing.
Right.
Because of the quality control. There was not like we have today where everything was monitored, but they probably do it on computers now.
And so that the viewers know, the Telecaster was never designed as an upscale instrument.
No.
It's a band-sawn body with a bolt-on neck and those pickups, but it's perfection. I mean, the versatility of sounds that come out of that, I don't know if Leo Fender ever knew what the legacy would become. He certainly lived to enjoy it. But initially, that was a simple assembly line guitar, unlike the hand-carved
the first Spanish
Gibsons.
electric.
Right.
Spanish electric guitar, just a simple, and he was a frugal guy. So instead of gluing on the necks, he wanted interchangeable parts. He wanted the Model T of guitars.
Right.
To go down the assembly line.
Every man's guitar.
Yep, go down the assembly line. But this goes here, that goes there, screw this on, and they could make a lot of them cheaply, but a quality instrument, just like a Model T. That's what he was trying to do.
And I think few people would argue that there's some real mojo in that old wood.
There is.
They used a different drying process. Now they dry in microwaves, and you know, it's not the aging process that they had back then. So a lot of when you buy a Tully like that, if you were to get a real one, it might run you as high as $40,000. But you're paying for some really vintage wood that resonates in a special way.
Well, yeah, you know, a lot has to do with the wood. That's why you get when you get one that sounds like this one does.
Yes.
They select the wood for tone.
Yep.
I've had many an argument. Guys will say it's just the pickups. It's not just the pickups.
It's not.
I had a '58 Stratocaster that by the end had Lindy Fralin pickups in it because the old ones had died.
Yes.
And
It still
none of
had
the other
sound.
Stratocasters I had could sound like
Right.
that. When I put those pickups in that and take those pickups and put them in another newer guitar, no way.
And talk about the neck profile a little bit on these. And I believe that the neck profile affects tone to some degree because there's more mass,
More meat.
more meat,
More meat to it, gonna give you more tone, absolutely.
more resonate. And I can feel it when I play the guitar.
You hear
and
it loud
Right.
without being plugged in. And you can feel that it's on your leg, it goes right through the body.
Well, let's play something and let the viewers at home hear what these can do. This is this when I'm playing is a recreation from the Fender Custom Shop
Would you like me to play the Nancy one
of the
first,
Nocaster.
or-
Yeah, play Nancy for him.
All right, the Nancy style one.
I'm sure the
This
viewers would like to hear that.
This,
Without
this is not Nancy. This is
Yes,
a little
let's be
different.
clear on that.
But this is as true to a '53 that you will get.
That you'll ever see. Want to do that Earl Hooker Blues tune you were doing earlier? Volume swells. Counter off.
2, 3.
That gave us a whole range of tones.
Yeah, that just ran
That was
through
all
each
the
pickup.
bases covered.
Yep, ran through each pickup, and
Yeah, that was fantastic. Folks, and if you were paying careful attention, you saw him manipulating those crying sounds you hear. Those come from swelling the volume and tone controls. And that was something Roy did to great effect.
great effect. He would use that. Well, it was designed to do that stuff too, so a country player could mimic a steel pedal.
Right.
This is what
Right.
you had this, the tone knob was. So they could do that kind of thing, or,
Yes. Fantastic. And those potentiometers in the old ones and in these custom shop ones, they seem to react differently than the ones in the other more modern style Tullys.
They do.
These give you that sound.
Yes. And a geek like myself, a guitar geek like myself spends a lot of time trying different caps. Yes, I've modded this a little bit. Everybody does. Anybody who really, this has a Sprague oil and paper 047 100-volt cap.
You guys getting all this out there? Write it down.
Okay. That's what I found worked the best for this. And they're not all made the same.
Right.
Actually, in this one, I have a Sprague that's labeled Fender that I cannot find another one. I've looked, I'm still in search of, but.
But these little things add up.
All
to
those
the
things
sum
add up.
of the total, which is how you're going to get the tone that works for you. I mean, the collectors, you mentioned flathead screws versus Phillips were used. As you'll see here, the flatheads, because this is a recreation of a no-caster.
Exactly.
I've heard people that are so insane that they can claim to hear a